At Christmas, my daughter-in-law said, "We'll be spending Christmas at my mom's house. You can stay home." I didn't argue. I just bought a ticket. When I posted the photos, my phone started ringing off the hook. Who was the man sitting next to me? That sentence. Those 11 words split me in two. It wasn't a shout. It wasn't a slap. It was worse. It was the tone. That tone you use when you're talking to someone who no longer matters. Like I was a piece of old furniture in the way of the living room. You can stay home. You. Not Mom. Not Helen. You. As if I were the building's doorman. As if I wasn't the one paying the electric bill that lit the table where we ate. As if I wasn't the one who bought the turkey that she didn't even know how to cook. It was December 15th. 10 days until Christmas. We were in my dining room. The same one where I celebrated Daniel's first steps 36 years ago. The same one where we held the wake for my husband, Robert, when cancer took him 20 years ago. The ivory-colored walls still held the echo of laughter that no longer existed. Jessica let the words fall while cutting a piece of chicken. She didn't even look up from her plate. Her straight hair fell perfectly on her shoulders. Her impeccable manicure shined under the crystal chandelier I inherited from my mother. Everything about her screamed control, planned perfection. And my son, my Daniel, he was sitting next to her, his eyes glued to the embroidered tablecloth. The same tablecloth I had stitched, point by point, over months when he was 5 years old. I waited. I waited for him to say something, to lift his head, to defend me. Nothing. The silence grew thick as fog. I could hear the ticking of the wall clock Robert gave me on our 10th anniversary. Every second was a hammer blow against my chest. Daniel? My voice came out weaker than I would have liked. He cleared his throat. He kept staring at his plate. "It's just that, Mom. Jessica's family really insisted and we want to have a quiet Christmas. As a family, you know." Jessica interrupted him, this time looking at me. Her brown eyes, which everyone said were so pretty, pierced me with a cold, uncomplicated chill. "You understand, right? At your age, all that commotion isn't good for you. At my age, I am 68 years old, not 90. I worked until 3 years ago as an accountant at a respectable firm. I walk 3 miles 3 times a week. I do yoga on Sundays. But to her, I was already a disposable old woman. I got up from the table. My hands were shaking, but I wasn't going to cry in front of her. I wouldn't give her that satisfaction. "Enjoy your meal," I said, and went up to my room. My room, in my own 3-story house in Pasadena. The house I bought with the sweat of 40 years of working non-stop after Robert died. The house I painted, remodeled, filled with memories. The house that now felt like a prison where I was the intruder. I sat on the bed and looked out the window. The neighborhood Christmas lights twinkled like fallen stars. Every house told a story. Families gathered, hugs, warmth, and me. I was alone in the middle of the crowd, living under my roof. Then something strange happened. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I didn't sink into the self-pity I had wallowed in for the last 3 years. Every time Jessica humiliated me with her cutting remarks, her looks of disdain, her way of erasing me from my own life. This time, something inside me just clicked. I opened my laptop. My fingers moved on their own over the keyboard. I searched for flights. I searched for hotels. I searched for an escape. And at 11 o'clock at night on December 15th, I bought a plane ticket to Santa Fe for $1,200. I didn't tell anyone. I didn't ask for permission. For the first time in 3 years, I made a decision just for me. But what I didn't know that night, as I saved the confirmation email, was that this decision wouldn't just change my Christmas, it would change my entire life. And when that photo went viral 9 days later, when my phone started ringing off the hook, when Daniel shouted on the other end of the line demanding explanations, nothing would ever be the same. Because the man sitting next to me in that photograph, that man with a calm smile and eyes full of life, would bring more than just companionship. He would bring the truth. If this story resonates with your heart, stay until the end. Subscribe to the channel to keep hearing stories of women who decided not to stay silent. Because sometimes, liberation begins with a plane ticket. I closed the laptop. I took a deep breath. and for the first time in a very, very long time, I smiled. The war was just beginning. But this time, I would choose the battlefield. 3 years. 3 years living under my roof. And I had become invisible in my own home. How did I get here? At what point did I allow my life to become this? I go back to February of 2021. Daniel arrived with 2 suitcases and a look of defeat that broke my soul. "Mom, we lost the apartment." He didn't need to explain. The pandemic had hit hard. His graphic design business had collapsed. The clients disappeared. The debts grew. And the bank doesn't forgive. "It's just temporary," Jessica said that first day, walking into my house wearing Gucci sunglasses and dragging 4 Louis Vuitton suitcases. 6 months, max, while we get back on our feet. I opened the doors of my home. What else could I do? He was my son, my only son. The first 2 months were tolerable. Jessica complained about everything. The mattress was too hard. The water took too long to get hot. The Wi-Fi signal was slow, but she stayed in her space. Daniel worked on his laptop from the dining room. I cooked for all 3 of them. We were a family, trying to survive. But then something changed. The 3rd month, Jessica came downstairs one morning with a decorating magazine in her hand. "Helen, can we talk?" I was no longer Mrs. Helen. I was no longer Mom, just Helen, as if we were roommates. This sideboard, she pointed to the solid mahogany piece my grandmother had brought from New Orleans in 1952, the oldest piece in the family, the heart of my dining room. It just doesn't go with the modern vibe of the house. What do you think if we change it? I felt a pit in my stomach. That piece is over 70 years old, Jessica. It's a family heirloom. She wrinkled her nose. It just looks so old, so dark. It makes the whole space feel heavy. "It is old," I replied, trying to sound firm. "That's why it's valuable." "Oh, Helen, don't be so old-fashioned." She laughed as if I'd said something silly. "Sometimes you have to let go of the past to make room for the future, don't you think?" Daniel was in the kitchen making coffee. He heard everything. I looked at him. I waited for his support. "Mom, it's just a piece of furniture," he said, without turning around. "It's just a piece of furniture." Those 5 words took my breath away. 3 weeks later, I came back from my yoga class, and the sideboard was gone. In its place was a minimalist white display cabinet from IKEA, cold, soulless. "Where is the sideboard?" My words came out like a choked whisper. "I sold it on Facebook Marketplace," Jessica answered, while taking pictures of the new cabinet for her Instagram. "I got $400 for it. Not bad for such an old clunker, right? I used it to help pay for groceries this month." "You're welcome, by the way." $400. A piece of furniture worth over $7,000. A piece of my history, a gift from my grandmother before she died. Sold as if it were trash. I ran to my room. That time I did cry. I cried like I hadn't cried since Robert's funeral. Because it wasn't just the furniture. It was the message. You're not in charge here anymore. You don't decide. You don't matter. And Daniel? My Daniel said nothing. He didn't defend me. He didn't confront his wife. He just said, "It's just a piece of furniture, Mom. Don't overreact." But it didn't end there. The hand-embroidered curtains my mother made, the ones with magnolias and hummingbirds, disappeared the following week. "Too fussy," Jessica declared, replacing them with gray roller shades. The paintings from artisan markets I'd bought on my trips through New England were banished to the utility room. "They don't match the aesthetic," she explained, while hanging soulless geometric prints. My German porcelain dinner set, the one that took me 2 years of saving to buy, the one I only used on special occasions, suddenly became her everyday china. "Oh, Helen, if you never use it, what's the point of having it?" she told me, while pouring cereal into a plate that cost $60. And I kept silent. Why? Because I was afraid. Afraid Daniel would get angry. Afraid of being left alone. Afraid of being the difficult mother-in-law, the bitter old woman, the one who doesn't understand. So I swallowed my words, over and over and over again, until I couldn't recognize my own voice. One random Tuesday, I think it was October of 2022, I came down for breakfast and found the kitchen empty, silent. It had always been my ritual. I'd make coffee, toast, and cut fruit. Daniel would come down, and we'd eat together while he told me about his projects. But that morning, I heard laughter from the dining room. I peeked in. Daniel and Jessica were eating breakfast together. Scrambled eggs, orange juice. He was telling her something funny. She was laughing. They looked complete, as if they didn't need anything else. As if I were a leftover. "Good morning," I said from the doorway. Daniel barely looked up. "Oh, hey, Mom, we already ate. There's coffee left in the pot." And he went right back to talking to Jessica, as if I wasn't even there. That's how I became a ghost in my own house. I cooked only for myself. I ate alone in the kitchen while they had dinner in the dining room, binge-watching shows on the new TV Jessica bought with my borrowed credit card. I watched television alone in my room. I slept alone with the weight of the silence crushing my chest. And the bills? Oh, the bills. Every month, I paid. Electricity, gas, water, internet, phone, all the groceries, meals out when Jessica didn't feel like cooking, her Pilates classes, the gas for Daniel's car, the vet for the cat she adopted without asking me. $3,000 on average, every single month. $3,000 from my pension, from my savings, from the money I had saved my entire life to have a peaceful retirement. And when one day, just one day, I dared to suggest that maybe they could help with something, Jessica looked at me with those cold eyes and said, "Helen, we are going through an economic crisis. You have a pension, you have this house paid off. We have nothing. Are you seriously going to charge us? After everything we've lost?" She made me feel guilty, petty, selfish, for wanting them to help out in my house. And the worst part, the part that hurt the most, was watching my son become a stranger. The Daniel I knew, my affectionate boy, the one who would hug me for no reason, the one who told me, "You're the best mom in the world," had evaporated. Now he was a man who avoided my gaze, who left early and came home late, who, when I asked him how he was, answered in monosyllables. Fine, tired, busy. One night, I found him alone in the kitchen. Jessica had gone out with her friends. "Son," I said softly, "are you okay? I feel like we don't talk anymore." He sighed. A long, heavy sigh. "Mom, it's just... You don't understand the pressure I'm under. Jessica is stressed. The business isn't taking off, and you're always just there. Watching. Judging. Judging? Daniel? I never." "Yes, you do, Mom. With your silence, with your faces." Jessica feels uncomfortable. Jessica feels uncomfortable. In my house. With my money. After selling my memories, she felt uncomfortable. I didn't say anything else that night. I just went up to my room, closed the door, and sat in the darkness. And there, in that dense silence that smelled of defeat, I realized something terrifying. I had become an expert at swallowing my words, until I couldn't recognize my own voice. But I still didn't know that the final blow would come wrapped in Christmas paper and served in my own dining room. December 15th was just around the corner, and with it, the sentence that would change everything. I became an expert at swallowing my words, until I couldn't recognize my own voice. Do you know what it feels like to become a whisper inside your own life? I didn't either. Until it happened to me. November of 2023, 1 month before that Christmas that would break everything, Jessica had decided to host a get-together. An intimate gathering with friends, she told me while I was washing the breakfast dishes. She was leaning against the kitchen counter, scrolling on her phone with those perfect, nude-colored nails. "It'll be like 8 people. Nothing rowdy." "Of course," I replied. "Because that's what I did." I said yes, always. Oh, and Helen. She used that honey-sweet tone I now recognized as dangerous. "Would you mind staying in your room this afternoon? It's just that we're going to use the living room and the dining room, and we don't want you to feel uncomfortable with all the noise." My hand stopped under the soapy water. "Stay in my room?" "Yeah, so you can rest. The girls can be really loud." She laughed, a light little laugh, as if she were doing me a favor. In my living room? In my dining room? In my house? And I was supposed to hide in my room like a grounded teenager. "Jessica, Thanks, Helen. I knew you'd understand. And she left before I could finish the sentence. That afternoon, 8 women arrived. High heels, expensive perfumes, rehearsed laughs. They walked into my house as if it were a rented event hall. I was in my room, with the door closed, listening to their voices seep through the walls. Your house is gorgeous, Jess. Jess, that's what they called her, as if she were the owner. Yes, we've done several renovations. I have a good eye for design. Jessica's voice floated, proud. We've done renovations. I have a good eye. Nothing about my mother-in-law's house. Nothing about we were lucky she took us in. To her, to her friends, to the world, this was her house. And I was the invisible tenant who paid the bills. I came downstairs 2 hours later, when I heard them leaving. The living room was a disaster. Half-finished wine glasses on my marble coffee table, the one I bought on a trip to Savannah 15 years ago. There was a red stain on the Persian rug, crumbs of cheese and crackers everywhere. And then I saw something that froze my blood. On the floor, next to the sofa, were pieces of porcelain. My German china, 3 broken plates, shattered. I picked them up with trembling hands. Every piece was a dagger. Those plates had cost me $60 each. I had cared for them for years as if they were jewels. Jessica appeared with a trash bag. Oh yeah, I forgot to tell you. Stacy tripped and dropped a few plates. So clumsy. She shrugged. But, oh well. They're just plates, right? They're just plates. It's just a piece of furniture. It's just decoration. It's just. Jessica, that dinner set was. It was old, Helen. You can't even get that pattern anymore. Besides, they already had chips. She started collecting glasses. You should buy something more modern, more practical. Chips. My plates didn't have a single scratch before she arrived. I washed them by hand. I stored them with tissue paper between each one. But now they had chips. Like me. Like my life. Chipped away by the presence of someone who valued nothing. Help me clean up, will you? I'm exhausted from hosting. She handed me the trash bag. And I cleaned. I picked up the wreckage of my china. I cleaned the wine stains. I straightened the furniture. I washed the glasses, as if I were the housekeeper in my own home. Daniel got home late that night. He found Jessica in bed, watching TikToks. How was your party, honey? Amazing. Your friends are the best. He smiled. He lay down next to her. He didn't come downstairs to say hello to me. He didn't ask how my day had been. I was in the kitchen, eating dinner alone. Again. A piece of toast and some chamomile tea. The silence of that house screamed louder than any insult. The following days were a blur of the same. Jessica redecorating. Jessica buying things with my borrowed money. Jessica complaining about the cold, the heat, the food, the street noise, the way I walked that made the stairs creak. And me, swallowing it all. Every word I wanted to scream. Every complaint that died in my throat. Until the Virgin Mary episode. I had a figure of the Virgin Mary at the entryway. My mother brought it back from a pilgrimage when I was 10. It's not big, it's not fancy, but to me, it was everything. Every time I left the house, I would touch her mantle and ask for protection. One day, I came back from the grocery store, and the statue was gone. Where is the figure from the entryway? I asked Jessica. She was painting her nails in the dining room. She didn't even look up. Oh yeah, I put it in a box in the utility room. It was all dusty and kind of ugly. It cheapened the entry. Ugly. My Virgin Mary was ugly. Something inside me fractured. Small, imperceptible, like a hairline crack in glass. But it broke. Jessica, that statue is sacred to me. Oh, Helen, don't be so dramatic. God is everywhere. You don't need an old figurine to believe. She blew on her nails. Besides, I already bought a decorative mirror for that space. It's going to look much better. A mirror, instead of my statue. So Jessica could see her own reflection every time she walked in. How appropriate. I went up to the utility room. There she was, my Virgin Mary, stuffed in a cardboard box next to old cables and shoes no one wore anymore. I took her out. I cleaned the dust off with my sweater. and I took her up to my room, because that was the only space left where I could still have something of my own. The weeks passed like a runaway train. Every day, I became smaller. Every day, quieter. Every day, more non-existent. I stopped going down for breakfast. What was the point? They didn't wait for me. I stopped cooking for 3. They ate out or ordered delivery. I stopped trying to talk to Daniel. His answers were monosyllables or phone screens. I became a shadow, a ghost, an echo of who I once was. And then, December arrived. The Christmas lights started appearing in the neighborhood, the carols in the stores, the smell of hot cider and pastries in the streets. I used to love Christmas. It was the time when my house came to life. I decorated every corner. I cooked recipes my mother taught me. I invited the neighbors. We laughed. We sang. We were a family. But this year, Christmas smelled like defeat. Jessica hung minimalist, white LED lights where there used to be colored garlands. She bought a small artificial tree because the real ones make too much of a mess. No nativity scene. No tradition. This is what a modern Christmas is, Helen. Less cluttered. More aesthetic. More aesthetic. Less soul, like everything she touched. And I watched from the second-floor railing as my house turned into a Pinterest catalog. Cold. Perfect. Empty. Just like me. On December 15th, I went down to dinner. I don't know why. Maybe I still had the stupid hope that something would change. That Daniel would remember his mother existed. That Jessica would have a moment of humanity. The 3 of us sat down. Chicken in sauce, rice, tortillas. Jessica talked about her plans, about the dinner at her mom's house, the gift exchange, how excited she was. And then she said it. We'll be spending Christmas at my mom's house. You can stay home. And my world stopped. But in that moment, in that precise instant where the silence became unbearable, something else broke inside me. Something much bigger. And this time, it wasn't a fracture. It was a total collapse. That night, I bought more than just a plane ticket. I bought my dignity back. I went up to my room after that cursed dinner. My legs were shaking. Not from fear. Not from sadness. From rage. A cold rage that burned inside me like dry ice. I sat in front of my laptop. The screen lit up my face in the darkness. I could hear laughter downstairs. The TV was on. Daniel and Jessica enjoying their night as if nothing had happened, as if they hadn't just shattered me. I opened the browser. My fingers flew over the keyboard. Flights from Los Angeles, Albuquerque, December 24th. Several options appeared. I analyzed prices, times, layovers. My brain was working with a strange clarity, as if it had been waiting for this moment for years without knowing it. $1,200. Round trip, departing December 24th at 7 in the morning, returning December 28th. 4 days away from this house. 4 days away from the situation. 4 days to breathe. My finger hovered over the purchase button. What if I was wrong? What if this made things worse? What if Daniel got angry? What if? No. Enough what ifs. Enough living in fear of upsetting others while they trampled me without remorse. Click. Purchase confirmed. My heart was beating so hard I could feel the pulse in my temples. I took a deep breath. 1, 2, 3 times. Then I did something I had never done. I opened my online banking. I wanted to see. I needed to see in cold numbers what I already knew in my heart. Account statements. January 2021 to December 2023. I started adding it all up. Every electricity payment, every grocery bill, every dinner out, every loan that was never repaid, every one of Jessica's whims charged to my card. My hands shook as I wrote in a notebook. Electricity, $7,200 in 3 years. Gas, $1,800. Water, $3,500. Internet and cable, $3,600. Groceries, $3,000. Gasoline, $11,000. Eating out, $9,000. Their medical copays, $4,000. Jessica's clothes and whims, $5,000. I stopped. I checked the figures twice. 3 times. It couldn't be. I added it up again. $87,100. $87,100. In 3 years. That was more than my annual salary when I was working. That was half of my life savings. That was the money I had saved for emergencies, for trips I never took, for a peaceful old age, and I had given it away. Given it to a son who no longer spoke to me, and a woman who treated me like a burden. I felt nauseous. I got up. I walked to the bathroom. I splashed cold water on my face. When I looked in the mirror, I barely recognized myself. Who was this woman with the tired eyes? When had I aged so much? When had I let them extinguish my light? No more, I whispered to my reflection. No more. I went back to the computer. Now I was acting with surgical precision. I opened a new folder. Evidence. Screenshot of the bank statement. Save. Photo of the utility bills. Save. Proof of bank transfers. Save. Photos of the sideboard before Jessica sold it. Thank God I had them on my old phone. Save. WhatsApp messages where Jessica asked to borrow money. Save. I didn't know why I was gathering all this. I just knew I needed it. Like a soldier preparing her arsenal before battle. Then I dialed a number I had saved for months. 3 rings. Hello? Carol? It's Helen. Oh my goodness, Helen. What a miracle. How are you? Carol. My friend from college. The only friend I hadn't pushed aside when I married Robert. The one who visited me every week when he died. The one who always told me, Helen, you are golden. Don't you forget it. And I had forgotten. My voice broke. Carol, I need to get out of here. Silence on the other end. Then, what happened? And there, in the darkness of my room, I told her everything. The words spilled out like a bursting river. 3 years of silence, vomited up in 20 minutes. The sideboard, the plates, the Virgin Mary statue, the Christmas, Jessica, my son, my house that was no longer mine. Carol didn't interrupt. She just listened. And when I finished, when I had no words left, she said, Come to Santa Fe. Spend Christmas with me. I already bought the ticket. You serious? She laughed, a warm laugh that reminded me who I was before I became a ghost. Oh, Helen, I knew you were still in there. You just needed to wake up. I'm scared, Carol. Of what? That if I leave, I'll lose Daniel forever? Another pause. Then, with that wisdom, only the years can give, Helen. Do you really have him right now? That question shot through me like a bullet. No, I didn't have him. I hadn't had my son for months, maybe years. What I had was a stranger who wore his name in his face, but no longer had his heart. Come, Carol repeated, and bring pretty clothes. We're going to remind you who you are. We hung up after 2 a.m. I lay down but couldn't sleep. A movie was projecting in my mind. My life for the last 3 years. Every humiliation, every swallowed silence, every piece of myself I had given away, hoping for. What? Love? Gratitude? Respect? None of it came. Only more humiliation, more silence, more absence. At 6 a.m, I got up. I went down to the kitchen, made coffee, and got a piece of paper and a pen. I wrote, I'll be away for Christmas. Have a good holiday. Short, direct, no explanations, because I didn't owe them explanations anymore. I left the note on the dining room table next to the coffee pot. Then I went upstairs and started to pack. I pulled the suitcase from the closet, the blue one Robert had given me for our 15th anniversary. So you can travel the world, my love, he had said. I never used it. Now I would. I folded my clothes with care. Not the old clothes I wore around the house. Not the worn-out sweatpants or the formless blouses. I pulled from the back of the closet the dresses I hadn't worn since before they arrived. The wine-colored one, the navy blue one, the floral one Robert loved. They still fit maybe a little tight, but they fit. I packed my good shoes, my arpege perfume that I only used on special occasions, the pearl necklace my mother gave me. I was packing myself the Helen that existed before the silence. I closed the suitcase. It was 10 in the morning on December 16th, 8 days until Christmas. Daniel and Jessica were still asleep. As usual, they woke up late on weekends. I brought my suitcase downstairs in silence. I hid it in the utility room. For the next few days, I acted normal. I cooked, I cleaned, I said hello. But inside, something had changed. It no longer hurt when Jessica talked about her Christmas plans. I no longer waited for Daniel to include me in his conversations. Because I had plans too, and they weren't invited. On the night of December 23rd, Jessica and Daniel finished packing to go to her mother's house. "Do you need anything before we go, Helen?" Jessica asked with that fake sweetness. "No, I'll be fine. There's food in the fridge. Not much, but there's something," she smiled. "We'll see you on the 26th. Daniel didn't even say goodbye. He just loaded the bags into the car. I watched them leave from my bedroom window, and when the car's taillights disappeared around the corner, I smiled. For the first time in 3 years, I truly smiled. I set my alarm for 5:30 in the morning. Tomorrow, my new life began. Though I still didn't know that the man I was about to meet wouldn't just change my Christmas, he would change everything. In Los Angeles, a 68-year-old woman got on the plane. The woman who got off was no longer the same. 5:30 in the morning, December 24th. The alarm went off in the darkness. I shut it off before the second ring. My heart was beating like a war drum. I got up in silence, even though there was no one in the house. The ghosts of 3 years of humiliation still made me walk on tiptoe. I showered, hot water that washed away more than just skin. It washed away years of shrinking, of making myself small, of disappearing. I chose the terracotta-colored dress I had packed. I put it on in front of the mirror. It was snug in the waist, but I looked alive. The color made my fair skin glow. It brought out the brown in my eyes. When was the last time I had dressed up for myself, and not just to go unnoticed in my own home? I put on makeup. Light. Natural. A little blush. Mascara. Pale pink lipstick. The woman in the mirror looked back at me with something resembling hope. 6:15 in the morning. I went downstairs with my suitcase. The house was submerged in that silence I knew so well. But now, it wasn't suffocating. Now, it was the promise of freedom. I called an Uber. It arrived at 6:40. Before leaving, I looked at my house one last time. The furniture Jessica had chosen. The walls that no longer told my story. The spaces where I no longer existed. I closed the door without looking back. The airport was an anthill of families, kids running with Santa hats, couples hugging, suitcases full of gifts. I was walking alone, but I didn't feel alone. I felt free. The flight left on time. Seat 12B window. I watched Los Angeles shrink beneath the clouds. That city where I was born, where I had married, where I was widowed, where I had raised my son, where I had lost my voice. I closed my eyes and breathed. The plane landed in Albuquerque at 9:30 in the morning. From there, a shuttle bus to Santa Fe. Another hour and a half on the road. I arrived at noon. Santa Fe welcomed me with its impossible blue sky, cobblestone streets, adobe houses painted yellow, orange, and desert rose. The smell of cinnamon and coffee floated in the air. Guitar music drifted from a hidden cafe. It was like entering another world. Carol was waiting for me at the entrance to her house, a small 2-story house with purple bougainvillea spilling from the terrace. When she saw me, she ran to me. "Helen." We hugged. And there, in that hug, something inside me broke. I cried. I cried like I hadn't cried in 3 years. I cried for the sold sideboard, the broken plates, the hidden statue, the stolen Christmases, my lost voice. I cried it all out. Carol held me. She didn't say, "Don't cry." She didn't say, "It will be okay." She just held me. And that was enough. Afterward, when I had no tears left, she took me inside. "Come on." I made up the room with the best view. "And I have a plan for tonight." "A plan?" "It's Christmas Eve, Helen. Did you think I was going to let you sit here alone eating leftovers?" She took me to my room. Peach-colored walls, a bed with a hand-embroidered quilt, windows that opened onto a garden full of flowers. Rest. Take a bath. Be ready to go at 7 o'clock in the evening. Go? Go where? She smiled with that mischievous glint I'd known since we were 20. It's a surprise. I took another bath. Not because I needed to. For pleasure. Hot water, lavender soap. Time for myself. Without rush, without guilt, without fear of someone knocking on the door demanding something. I put on the navy blue dress. The one Robert used to say made me look elegant. Carol appeared with a box. Here. I bought you this. I opened the box. Inside was a cream-colored silk shawl with gold threads. Carol, no buts. You're wearing it. Tonight, you are going to shine. 7:15 in the evening. We left, walking. The streets of Santa Fe were lit with luminarias. Families strolled. Vendors offered hot cider and pastries. Carols played from the churches. It was a real Christmas. Not Jessica's cold, minimalist Christmas. It was Christmas with a soul. Where are we going? I asked. To John and Martha's house. Some friends you're going to love. They host a dinner every Christmas. Delicious food, good company, and she glanced at me sideways. There's someone I want you to meet. My stomach did a flip. Carol, no. Relax. He's just a friend. A retired professor. A widower. Like you. A good person. That's all. We arrived at a mustard-colored adobe house. From outside we could hear laughter and music. We went in. The living room was full of people. 15, maybe 20, various ages. Some young, others older, like us. Everyone with a glass in their hand. Everyone smiling, really smiling. Carol, a woman with white hair and joyful eyes, approached. You're just in time. And you must be Helen. I'm Martha. She's my best friend, Helen. Welcome, dear. There are no strangers here. Only family we haven't met yet. She introduced me to everyone. Names I forgot instantly from nerves, but kind faces, warm hands, genuine hugs. And then I saw him. On the terrace, looking at the city lights, was a man, tall, silver-gray hair combed back, black-rimmed glasses, a wine-colored sweater, a relaxed but elegant posture. Carol pushed me gently. Come, I'll introduce you. We walked toward the terrace. He turned when he heard us. And when our eyes met, it wasn't love at first sight. I'm not 15. It was something deeper. It was recognition. As if my soul said, ah, here is someone who understands the language of pain and survival. Arthur, this is Helen. Helen, this is Arthur. A pleasure. His voice was deep, soft, confident. He extended his hand. I took it. His grip was firm but warm. The pleasure is all mine, I replied. Carol disappeared with an excuse about helping in the kitchen. We were left alone. Carol told me you're visiting from Pasadena. Yes, I needed some air. He smiled, as if he understood more than I'd said. I came to Santa Fe looking for air too. 5 years ago. After my wife passed away. I'm sorry. I'm sorry for your loss too. Carol didn't tell me details, but she mentioned you've had some hard times. I don't know what happened. Maybe it was the distance from my house. Maybe it was his non-judgmental gaze. Maybe it was the wine Martha had handed me. I told him. Not everything, but enough. The sideboard, the plates, Jessica, the sentence from the dinner on December 15th. He listened without interrupting. His eyes never left mine. And when I finished, he sighed deeply. Do you know the problem with being a good person, Helen? What's that? That people confuse kindness with weakness. And they take advantage until they've wrung you dry. Those words hit me in the chest. I was the same way, he continued. After my Elena died, my kids wanted to sell the family house, divide everything up immediately, as if the memories were worthless, as if I didn't matter. He took off his glasses, cleaned them. One day, I looked in the mirror and didn't recognize myself. I had let grief and guilt turn me into someone who just says yes to everything. And what did you do? I moved to Santa Fe, alone. I told them the house was mine and would remain mine until I decided otherwise. They got angry. They stopped talking to me for 2 months. He smiled. They were the 2 best months of my life. I laughed. For the first time in I don't know how long, I laughed. Genuinely. And after? After, they understood that Dad wasn't an ATM or a piece of furniture. He was a person, with dignity. And when they started treating me as such, we started talking again. I don't know if Daniel will ever understand that. Maybe he will, maybe he won't. But that's not your problem, Helen. Your problem is that you've forgotten that you have a right to be happy, too. Those words pierced me. A right to be happy. When had I stopped believing I deserved that? The dinner was beautiful. Roast turkey, ham, and all the trimmings. Hot cider with a kick. Holiday bread. Laughter. Stories. Toasts. Arthur sat next to me. We talked about everything. About books. He had been a literature professor. About travel. About food. About life. There was no flirting. No propositions. Just 2 people sharing a table and a conversation. But when our hands brushed as we passed the bread, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Hope. At 11 o'clock at night, Martha pulled out her camera. Group photo. Everyone on the terrace. We all arranged ourselves. Carol pulled me toward the front. Arthur ended up next to me. Say, Merry Christmas. Flash. One more. Now just the people sitting. I sat in one of the terrace chairs. Arthur sat next to me. Behind us, the lights of Santa Fe glittered like fallen stars. Carol took the picture with my phone. Perfect, she said, looking at the screen. I didn't think much of it at the time. I didn't know that that photo, that simple photo of 2 people smiling under the Christmas sky, was going to change absolutely everything. We walked back to Carol's house after midnight. We walked slowly through the quiet streets. So, what did you think of Arthur? He's nice. Just nice? She smiled. Carol, I'm 68 years old. I'm not looking for romance. You're not looking for it. But maybe it found you. I laughed. But deep down, my heart was beating with something I thought was dead. Anticipation. Before bed, I checked my phone for the first time all day. 0 calls from Daniel, 0 messages. I wasn't surprised. It didn't hurt. It just confirmed what I already knew. But tomorrow, everything was going to change. Because Carol had already uploaded that photo to my Facebook, and my phone was about to explode. A single picture, 847 likes, and my phone started to ring. December 25th, 11:37 in the morning. I woke up with the sun streaming through the window, golden light, warm. The kind of light I hadn't seen in years, because in my house, I always kept the curtains closed so as not to damage Jessica's new furniture. I stretched in bed. No rush. No guilt. No knot in my stomach wondering what humiliation awaited me today. It smelled like fresh coffee. I went downstairs in my pajamas. Something I never did at my house. I always had to be dressed, presentable, lest Jessica see me looking sloppy and comment on the importance of taking care of oneself at any age. Carol was in the kitchen making huevos rancheros. Good morning, Sleeping Beauty. Good morning. I slept like I haven't slept in years. That's what happens when you sleep without ghosts in your head. She poured me coffee. How did you wake up? Good. Really good, actually. I uploaded the photos from the dinner to Facebook last night. Did you see them? I haven't checked my phone. Oh, Helen, you need to get with the times. People react fast. Look. She pulled out her phone. She showed me my Facebook profile. There it was. The photo from last night. Arthur and me sitting on the terrace. He in his wine-colored sweater and his calm smile. Me in my navy blue dress and the gold shawl. The lights of Santa Fe in the background like a Christmas card. But it wasn't the photo that caught my attention. It was the caption Carol had written. The happiest Christmas in years. Thank you, Arthur, for the wonderful company. My stomach did a flip. Arthur? Carol, why did you write that? Because it's true. You were happy last night, and he had a lot to do with it. She winked. Besides, what's wrong with it? It's just a photo. Just a photo. It read, 847 likes. 156 comments. I started to read. Helen, you look beautiful. Merry Christmas. Mrs. Helen, My goodness, how elegant. And that man? A new boyfriend? Lucy from the corner store. Aunt Helen, you look amazing. You were keeping him a secret, LOL. My niece, Sophia. And more, and more, and more. Most were nice messages. Congratulations. People surprised to see me smiling like that. But then I saw one that chilled my blood. Helen, where are you? Daniel asked us if we knew anything. Call him, my friend Beth. I checked the time of the comment. 9:15 in the morning. 2 hours ago. I grabbed my phone. I had left it on silent since last night. When I unlocked the screen, I almost dropped it. 23 missed calls from Daniel. 17 WhatsApp messages. 5 from Jessica. 3 voicemails. My heart was pounding in my ears. I opened WhatsApp. Daniel's messages started out calm. 7:42 a.m. Mom, where are you? You're not at the house. 8:03 a.m. Mom, please answer. We're worried. 8:31 a.m. Mom, I saw your Facebook. Who is that man? And then they got desperate. 9:12 a.m. Mom, answer. Jessica saw the picture. She is furious. 9:28 a.m. Why are you doing this to us? Why didn't you tell us you were going out with someone? 9:45 a.m. The neighbors are asking. Jessica's family saw the picture. I need you to call me. 10:18 a.m. Mom, this is very irresponsible. You need to explain yourself. Jessica's messages were direct and venomous. 9:35 a.m. Helen, how embarrassing. What will people think? 9:51 a.m. Daniel is very upset by your behavior. You should think about your family before making these scenes. 10:33 a.m. Everyone has seen the picture now. Who is that man? Since when are you dating? At your age? At my age. There it was again. That phrase to remind me that, to them, I no longer had a right to live. Carol was watching me, worried. What's wrong? I showed her the messages. Oh, Helen. She didn't seem surprised. She seemed satisfied. It was only a matter of time. A matter of time for what? For them to realize you're not a piece of furniture they can store in the basement when they don't need you. My phone started to ring. Daniel. I stared at the screen, the name flashing. The photo of him I still had saved, from 5 years ago, when he used to really smile. Carol put her hand on mine. Are you going to answer? I took a deep breath. Yes, but on my terms. I picked up. Hello? Mom? Why weren't you answering? Daniel's voice came out like an explosion. Behind him, I could hear Jessica shouting something I couldn't make out. Good morning, Daniel. Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas? Seriously, Mom? Where are you? Who is that man in the picture? I'm in Santa Fe, spending Christmas with my friend Carol. And that man is Arthur, a friend of hers. A friend? Jessica's voice got closer to the phone. I was on speaker. Helen, you can't just do these things without telling us. You're making us look ridiculous. Something inside me clicked. It wasn't anger. It wasn't sadness. It was absolute clarity. I'm making you look ridiculous? My voice came out calm. Too calm. Me? Yes, the neighbors are asking. The family is asking. Everyone saw that picture. And what's wrong with the picture, Jessica? That you're with a man. At your age. And without telling us. Interesting. I walked out onto Carol's terrace. The sun warmed my face. Because I don't recall you two asking my permission to spend Christmas without me. Silence. Mom, that's different. Daniel started. Different? Why? Because you have the right to make plans, and I don't. It's because we're a couple, Jessica exploded. And you're… what? An old woman who should stay locked up waiting for scraps of attention? More silence. Carol was watching me from the kitchen, her eyes shining. She gave me a thumbs up. Mom, that's not it. Daniel sounded lost, like a child who doesn't understand why he's being punished. Then what is it, son? Because I need you to explain to me why you two can exclude me from Christmas without a second thought, but I can't leave my own house without asking permission. Because we're your family. Jessica shouted. Family is built on respect, Jessica, not convenience. That line came from my lips as if I'd rehearsed it my whole life, but I hadn't. It came from that place where I had stored 3 years of compressed silence. I can't believe you're doing this to us. Jessica's voice was trembling, but it wasn't sadness. It was the rage of losing control. After everything we've sacrificed living in that house. Sacrificed? That word was the last straw. Sacrificed? Jessica, I have paid $87,100 in 3 years to support you. Electricity, gas, water, food, gas, your whims. Everything. And I never got so much as a thank you. Mom, that's not. I have the receipts, Daniel. I have the bank transfers. I have everything documented. My voice was still calm but firm. So don't you talk to me about sacrifice. I know what it is to sacrifice. And I also know what it is to be used. Another silence. This one longer, denser. When are you coming back? Daniel asked. His voice sounded small. The 28th. We need to talk. Yes. We need to talk. About a lot of things. I took a deep breath. Have a nice Christmas. And I hung up. My hands were shaking. I almost dropped the phone. Carol ran to me. She hugged me. That was incredible, Helen. I'm shaking. That's adrenaline. That's power. That's your voice. After 3 years of silence. I collapsed into a chair. The phone was still vibrating. More messages, more calls. But I didn't open them. For the first time in my life, I would decide when and how to respond. Do you think I did the right thing? I asked Carol. The right thing? She scoffed. Helen, you did the necessary thing. What you should have done years ago. I looked at the photo again. Arthur and me, smiling. So simple. So happy. And I realized something. It wasn't the photo that bothered them. It was seeing me happy without them. It was discovering that I could exist and shine and live without their permission. That was what they couldn't stand. My phone rang again. This time. It wasn't Daniel. It was an unknown number. Hello? Helen? A man's voice. Formal. Professional. Yes. Who is this? This is Mr. Harrison. Your attorney. I apologize for calling on Christmas, but your son Daniel was here yesterday. The world stopped. My son. Came to your office? Yes. He was asking about your will. And about the deed to the house. I felt a punch in my stomach. What did you tell him? Nothing. I told him that information is confidential and I can only discuss it with you. But, Mrs. Helen, I think we should schedule a meeting. Soon. I hung up. Carol was looking at me, pale. What happened? Daniel went to the lawyer, asking about my will. I didn't need to say more. The pieces clicked into place like a cursed puzzle. Jessica didn't just want my house to live in. She wanted to make sure it was hers. And my son was helping her. That afternoon, I couldn't enjoy the Christmas meal Carol prepared. I couldn't concentrate on the movies. I could only think about one thing. I needed proof. I needed to know how far the betrayal went. And I had 3 days in Santa Fe to plan my next move. Because this war was just beginning. And now I was playing to win, too. When I stopped being available, I discovered who really needed me. And who was just using me. December 26th, 8:43 in the morning. I hadn't slept well. Mr. Harrison's words echoed in my head. Your son was asking about your will. I got up before dawn. I made coffee in Carol's kitchen without making a sound. I sat on the terrace with an old notebook I found in a drawer. And I started to write. Everything I remembered. Everything I had. Everything I needed. February 2021. Daniel and Jessica move in temporarily. April 2021. Jessica sells the sideboard without permission. $400. June 2021. My mother's embroidered curtains disappear. August 2021. First time Jessica borrows my credit card. $1,500 in clothes for her. The list grew and grew. 3 years of small thefts, small humiliations, the small deaths of my dignity. And at the end of the list, I wrote, December 2023, Daniel asks about the will without my knowledge. Carol appeared with 2 mugs of hot chocolate. What time did you get up? Since 5. She sat next to me. She looked at my list. Oh, Helen, I need to understand what's happening. I need to know what they're planning. What are you going to do? I don't know yet, but I can't go back to that house without a plan. My phone vibrated. Daniel again. This time, I answered on the 3rd ring. Hello? Mom. His voice was tired, broken. We need to talk. I'm listening. Not on the phone. When you get back, please. There was something in his tone, something different. It wasn't anger. It wasn't demanding. It was fear? Did something happen, Daniel? A long silence, heavy breathing. Jessica is. She's really upset. She says we can't trust you anymore. That the photo was an act of rebellion to humiliate us. Humiliate you? I just spent Christmas with a friend. I know. I told her that. But she says you're changing. That you're becoming selfish. Selfish. For having my own life. For smiling in a picture. For existing without their permission. And what do you think, Daniel? Another silence. I don't know what to think, Mom. I'm confused. Jessica says one thing, you say another, and you what? I just want us to be a family again. Those words pierced me. Because they came from the boy I raised. The son I built with my own hands after Robert died. The Daniel that existed before Jessica. But I also knew that Daniel might not exist anymore. Son, I need to ask you something. And I need you to be honest. What? Why did you go see my lawyer? The silence was so long I thought he had hung up. How did you know that? He called me. He's my lawyer, Daniel. It's his job to tell me when someone asks about my documents. Mom, it was Jessica's idea. I don't care whose idea it was. I asked you why. She said we should be prepared. In case something happens to you, to know how things stand. In case something happens to me. I'm 68, Daniel, not 90. I'm perfectly healthy. I know, but what? Are you two waiting for me to die so you can get my house? No, Mom, that's not it. Then what is it? Because from where I'm sitting, it looks like you're planning my funeral while I'm still breathing. I heard him cry. Stifled sobs. Like when he was 7 and fell off his bike. I didn't want to. I didn't. Jessica said it was just to be informed. That you hadn't told us anything about your will, and it was important to know. My son, my boy. So manipulated that he no longer knew where his voice ended and hers began. Daniel, listen to me very carefully. My will is my decision, my house is my asset, and when I die, which I hope is many, many years from now, everything will be handled as I decide. Do you understand? Yes, and if you want to keep living in my house, we are going to have to set new rules, because what has happened these last 3 years is not going to continue. What do you mean? We'll talk when I get back. The 28th. In the afternoon. I'll expect you both in the dining room at 6. Mom, I love you, son. But I am not going to let myself be disrespected in my own home. Not by you, not by anyone. I hung up. My hands were trembling, but not from fear, from determination. Carol hugged me from behind. I'm so proud of you. I'm scared, Carol. Fear means you care. But you're not going to let fear paralyze you, right? No, not anymore. That afternoon, we went for a walk through Santa Fe. I needed to clear my head. We went into an art gallery, then a bookstore that smelled like old paper and coffee. We bought crafts at the market. A pair of silver earrings. A sky blue shawl. And in every place, I smiled. Not forced smiles. Not people-pleasing smiles. Real smiles. Because for the first time in years, I was living for me. At sunset, we sat in the main plaza. The Cathedral Basilica of Street, Francis of Assisi rose, golden and pink, against the dying Sunday. You know what the saddest part is, Carol? What's that? that it took me 3 years to realize that I deserve respect, too. It's never too late, Helen. My phone buzzed. A WhatsApp message. But it wasn't from Daniel. It was from Arthur. Hello, Helen. Carol gave me your number. I hope I'm not intruding. I just wanted to know how you are. I heard you had a difficult day. If you need to talk, I'm here. No pressure. Just as a friend. Arthur. I read the message 3 times. No one, absolutely no one, had asked me how I was in years. I replied. Hello, Arthur. Thank you for asking. It's been an intense day, but a necessary one. I would like to talk. Do you have time tomorrow? The reply came in seconds. All the time in the world. How about the cafe on Carol's corner? At 11? Perfect. See you then. Carol was watching me with that conspiratorial smile. What? Nothing. It's just. 3 days ago, you got here broken. And now you're making plans with a man who treats you like a person. It's just coffee, Carol. Of course. Just coffee. She laughed. With the man in the photo that drove your daughter-in-law insane. And we both laughed. That night, I checked my emails. There was one from Mr. Harrison. Mrs. Helen, I am confirming your appointment for January 3rd at 10 in the morning at my office. It is important that we discuss the modifications you wish to make to your will and the legal measures we can take to protect your assets. Please bring all documents you have, receipts, transfers, proof of expenses. I look forward to seeing you, Richard Harrison. I closed the laptop. The plan was forming in my head like a puzzle, but I was still missing one piece. I needed clear evidence of Jessica's intentions. I needed to hear from her own mouth what she was planning. And I had the perfect idea of how to get it. December 27th, 11 o'clock in the morning. The cafe smelled like cinnamon and coffee. Arthur was already there, reading a book by Steinbeck. When he saw me, he stood up. He pulled out my chair like a gentleman from another era. You look better than yesterday. I feel better. We ordered coffee for me, an Americano for him, pastries. Carol told me a little, he said gently. If you want to talk about it, I'm here. And if not, we can talk about anything else. I told him, not everything, but the essentials, the will, Daniel, the manipulation. He listened without interrupting, without judging, without giving unsolicited advice. And when I finished, he said something that changed my perspective. Do you know the problem with manipulators? What? They only work when you let them. The day you set a boundary, all their power disappears. But he's my son, Arthur. I can't just... I'm not telling you to abandon him. I'm telling you to love him from a place of self-respect. Loving him doesn't mean letting him destroy you. Those words tattooed themselves on my brain. Love him from a place of self-respect. How did you do it with your kids? I told them the truth. I told them I loved them, but that I was not going to live the rest of my life as their bank and their jester. That if they wanted a relationship with me, it would be on terms of mutual respect. And did it work? With 2 out of 3, yes, my middle son. It's still difficult, but I don't carry the guilt anymore. I did my part. The rest is his decision. We left the cafe 2 hours later. We walked without a destination. We talked about everything and nothing. About books, music, trips we'd taken and trips we wanted to take. And when he left me at Carol's house, he took my hand. Helen, you're going to get through this. Stronger. More you. How do you know? Because you've already started. The hardest part isn't reaching the finish line. It's starting to walk. That night, I packed my things. Tomorrow, I was returning to Los Angeles. To my house. To the confrontation. But now, I was returning with something I didn't have when I left. I was returning with my voice, and I was ready to use it. Even if it meant losing everything I thought I had left. Because I had learned something in these 4 days. It is better to be alone with dignity than to be accompanied in humiliation. And my son, my Daniel, would have to choose. Whose side was he on? There are secrets kept for protection, and secrets revealed for justice. December 28th, 3:47 in the afternoon. The plane landed in Los Angeles under a gray sky, as if even the weather knew I was returning to war. Carol hugged me at the airport before I got in my taxi. Remember, you're not alone. If you need anything, you call me. I know. Thank you, Carol, for everything. Don't thank me. This is just the beginning. I want you to tell me how it all goes. I'll call you tomorrow, after the meeting with the lawyer. The taxi moved along the 405. Every mile was a step closer to my house. That house that no longer felt like home. My phone vibrated. Daniel, Mom, what time do you land? I'm in a taxi now. About an hour. Do you still want to talk today? Yes, at 6. In the dining room. Okay. We'll be here. He hung up quickly. Too quickly. I got home at 5:15. I took out my keys, but before I could open it, the door swung open. Daniel was standing there. Red eyes. Dark circles. He looked haggard. Mom. He didn't hug me. He just stepped aside to let me pass. The house smelled different, cleaner than usual. Like when you know important guests are coming and you scrub the corners. Had they cleaned for me? To impress me? I took my suitcase to my room. Everything was the same. No one had entered. This was my only uninvaded territory. I changed my clothes. Nothing fancy. Jeans. A white blouse. The blue shawl I'd bought in Santa Fe. I looked in the mirror. You can do this, I told myself. You have the truth on your side. I came downstairs at 6 o'clock on the dot. Daniel and Jessica were sitting in the dining room. He, nervous. She, with her arms crossed and that icy stare I knew so well. I sat at the head of the table. My seat. The seat I hadn't occupied in months. No one spoke for 10 eternal seconds. Well, I said finally. Here we are. Jessica was the first to speak. Of course. Helen, I think we owe you an apology. An apology? Yes. Maybe we were too harsh about the photo. We understand that you have a right to have friends. How generous. She was giving me permission to have friends. Thank you, Jessica. But I didn't call this meeting to talk about the photo. Daniel cleared his throat. Mom, I want to explain about the lawyer. I'm listening. It was my fault. Jessica suggested we ask about the will, but I was the one who made the decision to go. I shouldn't have done it without talking to you first. At least he was taking responsibility. That was something. And why did you do it, Daniel? Because. He looked at Jessica. She was staring at him, hard, like a coach giving silent instructions. Because we wanted to know how things stood, to plan our future. Does your future include my death? No, Mom, that's not it. Then what is it? Because from my perspective, it looks like you're measuring the inheritance before I'm even gone. Jessica sighed dramatically. Helen, don't be so dramatic. All families talk about these things. It's normal to want to be informed. Normal? Jessica, what's normal is to ask the person directly, not to go behind their back to their lawyer. It's just that you never want to talk about these things, she retorted with that condescending tone. You always avoid it, and we have a right to know what's going to happen with this house. There it was, the truth, spilling out like venom. A right? What right do you have to my house? Well, we've been living here for 3 years. We've helped with expenses. I couldn't help it. I laughed, a dry, bitter laugh. Helped with expenses? Jessica, did you really just say that? Yes, we've contributed. Not everything, but something. I took out my phone. I opened the photo folder. I showed them the screenshots of my bank statement. $87,100. That's what I have spent on you in 3 years. Electricity, water, gas, food, gasoline, all of your whims. $87,100. Daniel turned pale. Mom, I didn't know it was that much. Because you never asked. You never cared. That's not fair, Jessica intervened. We lost our apartment. We were in a crisis. You're his mother. It was your obligation to help us. My obligation? My obligation was to raise him until he was an adult, and I did that. What happened after was my generosity. Generosity that you two mistook for weakness. Jessica stood up from her chair. I knew it. I knew this trip to Santa Fe was to turn you against us. I'm sure that friend of yours filled your head with ideas. No one filled my head with anything. She just helped me remember that I deserve respect, too. Respect? And what about our respect? You embarrassed us with that photo. Everyone asking who that man was, as if you were some teenager looking for romance. And so what if I was? I'm 68, Jessica. I'm not dead. And I do not need your permission to live my life. Daniel, say something. Jessica yanked his arm. But my son had his head in his hands. Shut up, Jessica. Just shut up. It was the first time in 3 years I had heard him stand up to her. Jessica froze. What did you say? I said, shut up. Mom is right, about everything. He lifted his face. He had tears in his eyes. We've been ungrateful. I have been ungrateful. Daniel. No, Jessica. She's right. My mom opened her home to us. She supported us. She paid for everything. And we treated her like a burden. She's to blame, too. She plays the victim, but she never says anything. How are we supposed to know she's upset if she doesn't speak up? Because we shouldn't have to be told. It's her house. We should have had the decency to be respectful without being asked. Jessica grabbed her purse. I am not going to sit here and listen to this. If you're going to take her side, fine. She walked to the door. She turned around. But let me be clear, Helen. If you kick us out, you will be completely alone. No son, no future grandchildren, no family. Is that what you want? Her words were designed to wound me. And they did. But not like before. Jessica, if the only way I can have family is by sacrificing my dignity, then I prefer to be alone. She let out a cruel laugh. Well, what a sad life for you. And she stormed out, slamming the door. Daniel and I were left in silence. The wall clock read 6:47 in the evening. I'm sorry, Mom. His voice was broken. I'm so sorry. For everything. For being a coward. For not defending you. For letting her. For letting all this happen. Daniel, let me finish. He wiped his tears. When Dad died, you became my hero. You worked twice as hard. You gave me everything. You never complained. And I guess I grew up thinking that was normal. That moms were indestructible. That they'd always be there, no matter how you treated them. And when I met Jessica, I fell in love. And little by little, I let her decide for me. It was easier to go along with her than to confront her. And you never said anything. So I just assumed it was okay. And the will? He lowered his head. It was her idea. She said we should make sure the house was in my name, that you might change your mind and leave us out, that we needed to protect ourselves. Protect yourselves? From me? From your own mother? I know. It sounds horrible. But she has a way of making everything sound reasonable, like I'm the fool for not thinking of these things. I got up. I walked over to him. I put my hand on his shoulder. Daniel, I love you. I will always love you, but I cannot keep living like this. I know. I have an appointment with Mr. Harrison tomorrow. I'm changing my will. He went pale. Are you? Are you cutting me out? No, but I am putting conditions. And I'm going to make sure that you two can't sell it or kick me out. That's fair. And if you two continue to live here, you will pay rent. $2,000 a month. Market rate. That's also fair. And Jessica is going to have to apologize. For real. And respect my spaces. My things. My life. I don't know if she'll agree to that. Then she will have to leave. And you will have to decide if you go with her, or if you stay. His eyes filled with panic. Mom, you don't have to decide right now, but understand this. I will not be invisible in my own house anymore. It's over. He nodded, crying silently. I hugged him, like when he was little, like when he had nightmares and I was his refuge. I love you, son. But now, I have to love myself too. I understand. And I'm so sorry. That night, I slept in my bed feeling something strange. Peace. Fear. Yes. Uncertainty too, but mostly peace. Because I was no longer carrying the weight of silence. And tomorrow, the real change would begin. Sometimes, to discover the truth, you have to feign weakness. December 29th, 7:23 in the morning. I woke up just as the sun was peeking out. I had slept better than I had in months. Despite everything, or maybe because of it, I went down to make coffee. The house was silent. Daniel had probably been up all night. Jessica hadn't come back, or so I thought. When I entered the kitchen, she was there, sitting at the counter, phone in her hand, perfectly made up at 7 in the morning, as if nothing had happened. "Good morning, Helen." Her tone was sweet, too sweet, like poisoned honey. "Good morning. Sleep well?" "Yes." I made my coffee in silence. I could feel her gaze locked on my back. "Helen, I think things got out of hand last night." I didn't respond. I just kept stirring my coffee. We all said things we didn't mean. The heat of the moment, you know. I turned around. I looked her straight in the eye. "You didn't mean what you said?" She laughed. A light, fake laugh. "Of course not. I care about you, Helen. You're my husband's mother. We're family." Family. That word she used as a shield whenever it suited her. "What is this, Jessica? What do you mean?" "This. Performance. What do you want?" Her smile faltered. "Just for a second. But I saw it. I just want us to have peace. For us to go back to being the family we were. The family where I paid for everything, and you did whatever you wanted." Her gaze hardened, but she quickly softened it again. "Look, I know you're upset about the money. That's fine. Daniel and I talked. We can start contributing." "How much? What? How much can you contribute?" "Well, I don't know. $500 a month." $500. Out of the $2,000 I was going to ask for rent. And out of the $3,000 a month I averaged in expenses for them. "I see. It's just that Daniel's business is barely picking up, Helen. We can't give more. But it's something, right? It's a gesture of goodwill." "A gesture." After $87,100. "And in exchange for this? Gesture? In exchange?" She feigned surprise. "Nothing. It's just, well, since we'll be contributing, it would only be fair if we had some say in the house decisions, don't you think?" There it was. The hook under the bait. What kind of decisions? Oh, just normal things. If we're going to remodel something, if we're making changes. You know, to feel more a part of this. "Jessica, you've already made changes. You sold my furniture. You changed my decor. You threw away things that were important to me." "Oh, Helen, that was so long ago. We need to move past that, don't we?" Move past it. As if my memories were trash I should forget. In that moment, something clicked in my head. This conversation needed to be recorded. "Let me think about your proposal," I said. "I need time." "Of course. Take all the time you need." She stood up. "Oh, and Helen? About the will." My heart sped up, but I kept my face neutral. "What about it? I understand you want to make changes. It's your right. I just hope you remember that Daniel is your only son, and that this house has been his home for 3 years. It would be sad if, because of a misunderstanding, he lost what is rightfully his." Rightfully his. Yes. You're not going to live forever, Helen. And when you're gone, this house should go to Daniel. It's only fair. It's what any mother would do. There it was, unfiltered, undisguised, waiting for me to die to get everything. "You're right," I said, my voice weary. I feigned weakness. "It's just, I'm so confused. I don't know what to do." Her eyes lit up, like a shark smelling blood. "Oh, Helen, it's normal to be confused at your age. That's why it's so important to trust your family. We only want what's best for you." "You do?" "Of course. Look, why don't you cancel that appointment with the lawyer? We can talk, the three of us, as a family, without lawyers involved. It's healthier that way." "I don't know. Think about it. Lawyers just complicate things. And they charge a fortune to do it." She came closer, put her hand on mine. "Trust us, Helen. Trust your son." I looked into her eyes, those eyes I once thought were pretty, Now all I saw was calculation, manipulation, coldness. Okay, I'll think about it. She smiled, victorious. I knew you'd see reason. You're a smart woman. She walked out of the kitchen, humming a song. I waited 5 minutes, 10, until I was sure she had gone up to her room. Then I took my phone out of my robe pocket. I had recorded the entire conversation. Every word, every sentence, every veiled threat. You're not going to live forever, Helen. This house should go to Daniel. Cancel that appointment with the lawyer. My hands were shaking as I saved the audio file in 3 different places. My phone, my email, the cloud. Carol was right. Manipulators only have power when there are no witnesses. I went up to my room. I called Mr. Harrison. Mrs. Helen, good morning. Good morning, Mr. Harrison. I'm confirming my appointment for tomorrow at 10. Excellent. Are you bringing the documents I requested? Yes, and I have something else. A recording. A recording? Of my daughter-in-law, admitting she wants me to cancel the appointment with you and talking about my house as if it's already hers. Silence on the other end. Mrs. Helen. That is very valuable evidence. Bring it tomorrow, and I believe we should consider stronger measures of protection. Like what? An irrevocable trust, a life estate, clauses that prevent the sale of the property, and, depending on what you show me tomorrow, perhaps a restraining order, if we feel there is a risk. A risk? Mrs. Helen, when this much money is involved, and someone is, waiting for you to die, one must take precautions. His words chilled me to the bone. Was I really at risk? Was Jessica capable of no? I didn't want to think about it, but I couldn't be naive either. I'll see you tomorrow, Mr. Harrison. Until tomorrow, and Mrs. Helen, be careful. I hung up. I sat on the bed. The phone felt heavy in my hand, like a stone. I had crossed a point of no return. This was no longer just about setting boundaries. It was about protecting my life, literally. That afternoon, I pretended to be tired. I stayed in my room. I heard Daniel and Jessica talking downstairs. I couldn't make out the words, just the tones. Her, insistent. Him, hesitant. At 8 o'clock at night, Daniel knocked on my door. Mom, can I come in? Come in. He entered, his face a mask of defeat. Jessica told me you two talked this morning. We did. She says she offered for us to pay rent, and that you were being difficult. Difficult? Daniel, she offered $500 when you two cost me an average of $3,000 a month. I know, I already told her that. But she says it's all we can do. And what do you say? He sat on the edge of my bed. I say, she doesn't want to change anything. That she's just putting on an act because she's afraid you'll kick her out. And that as soon as the danger passes, everything will go back to the way it was. At least he was being honest. And what do you want, son? I want this to work. I want us to be a family. But, he covered his face with his hands. But I don't know if it's possible. Not as long as Jessica is. The way she is. Then you're going to have to make a decision. I know. He looked at me, his eyes red. Mom, if you had to choose between your dignity and not being alone, what would you choose? That question hit me in the chest. Because it was the exact question I had been asking myself for 3 years. And now, I had the answer. I would choose my dignity. Because loneliness can be temporary, but losing your soul is forever. He nodded, slowly. That's what I thought you'd say. He stood up, walked to the door. He paused. Mom, whatever happens tomorrow with the lawyer, I'm going to respect your decisions. Even if it means losing the house? Even if it means losing everything? Because I already lost something more important. I lost you, and I want to get you back. He closed the door softly. And I stayed there sitting on my bed crying. But not from sadness, from relief. My son was still in there. Under all the layers of manipulation and fear, he was still there. And tomorrow, we were going to get back what Jessica had stolen from us. Our family, our dignity, our peace. Even if it meant she had to go. Forever. Silence had weakened me. but the truth gave me back my power. January 3rd, 9:47 in the morning. I dressed with care. Black slacks, a white blouse, the gray blazer I used to wear when I worked as an accountant, low, firm-heeled shoes. I combed my hair back, no frills, no distractions. I put on just enough makeup to look awake, alive, in control. The woman in the mirror was no longer the same one who had fled on December 24th. This woman knew who she was, and she knew what she was worth. I went downstairs at 9:15. Daniel was in the living room. Ready? Ready, Mom. Are you sure you want me to come? Yes. You're my son. This involves you. And Jessica? She's coming too. He turned pale. Are you sure? Completely. Jessica appeared on the stairs, a tight-fitting beige dress, high heels, perfect makeup, as if she were going to a business meeting, which, I supposed, for her, it was. Good morning, Helen. Ready for our little family meeting? Her tone was light, almost mocking. She had no idea what was coming. Ready. We left in my car. I drove. Daniel sat in the passenger seat. Jessica sat in the back. The silence was as thick as concrete. Mr. Harrison's office was in Century City, an older, elegant building. 3rd floor. We entered the waiting room. Hardwood floors. Bookshelves filled with legal codes. The smell of coffee and old paper. The secretary smiled at us. Mrs. Helen? The attorney will see you now. Please, go in. We entered his office. Mr. Harrison was in his late 60s, white hair, an impeccable suit, an intelligent gaze behind rimless glasses. He stood up. Mrs. Helen. A pleasure to see you. He shook my hand. Then he looked at Daniel. You must be Daniel. And finally, at Jessica. And you are? Jessica, Daniel's wife. She extended her hand with a dazzling smile. He greeted her with professional courtesy. But I noticed his eyes harden, just slightly. He already knew who she was. Please, sit. We settled in. Me, in the center. Daniel to my right. Jessica to my left. The attorney opened a folder. It was thick, full of documents. Well, Mrs. Helen, I'm glad you all came. This will make things easier. Easier for what? Jessica asked. The sweetness was gone. Her voice had an edge. I'll be direct, said Mr. Harrison. Mrs. Helen came to me a few days ago because she is concerned about her assets, and after reviewing the situation, so am I. Concerned about what? Daniel sounded genuinely confused. Mr. Harrison pulled out a document. This is Mrs. Helen's current will, made 8 years ago after her husband's passing. In it, she states that all her assets pass to her only son, Daniel, upon her death. Daniel nodded. He knew that. The problem is, this will has no protections, which means that upon Mrs. Helen's death, you, Daniel, would be the absolute owner. And since you're married under community property law, the house would also be mine. Jessica finished. Mr. Harrison looked at her steadily. Exactly. And what's the problem? We're husband and wife. It's normal to share assets. The problem, I intervened, is that this house is my asset. I bought it with my work, and I don't want anyone to be able to sell it or do whatever they want with it when I'm gone. But Mom? Daniel looked hurt. I would never sell this house. It's our family home. You wouldn't. But she would. Jessica stiffened. I beg your pardon? I took out my phone. I placed it on the desk. Mr. Harrison, here is the recording I told you about. His eyes lit up. May I? I handed him the phone. He connected the audio to a small speaker. And then, Jessica's voice filled the office. You're not going to live forever, Helen. And when you're gone, this house should go to Daniel. It's only fair. Cancel that appointment with the lawyer. Lawyers just complicate things. Trust us, Helen. Trust your son. The audio ended. Daniel's face was ashen. Jessica? You said that? She jumped to her feet. You recorded me. That's illegal. In California, Mr. Harrison said with icy calm, a person can legally record any conversation they are a part of. It's perfectly admissible. But you took it out of context. What context? My voice was firm. The context where you asked me to cancel my appointment with my lawyer? The context where you talk about my house as if it's already yours? I just wanted us to resolve this as a family. No, Daniel said. His voice was shaking. You wanted to manipulate my mom so she wouldn't protect herself. Daniel, it's true, and I was an idiot for not seeing it sooner. Mr. Harrison held up a hand. I believe it's time to discuss the solutions. He pulled out more documents. Mrs. Helen and I have prepared a new will. Allow me to explain how it will work. He placed the papers on the desk. First, the house will be placed in an irrevocable trust. Mrs. Helen has a life estate. She can live there, rent it, modify it, but she cannot sell it or gift it. Second, upon her passing, the house passes to Daniel. But under the following conditions, it cannot be sold for 10 years. It cannot be mortgaged. And if Daniel decides to rent it, 40% of the profits will go to a foundation for vulnerable senior women. Third, if Daniel attempts to violate these clauses, the house automatically passes to said foundation. Jessica was livid. That's absurd. He's her son. You can't put conditions like that on him. I can and I am, I said, because this house represents 40 years of my work, and I will not allow it to be sold off to pay debts or whims. Fourth, the lawyer continued, given that Daniel and Jessica currently live on the property, the following is established. If they wish to continue living there, they will pay a monthly rent of $2,000. $2,000, Jessica shouted. He's her son. You're going to charge your own son rent? It's the market rate for a house of that size in Pasadena, Mr. Harrison replied. In fact, she could charge more. And fifth, I continued, if you do not agree to these conditions, you have 30 days to vacate the house. The silence that followed was deafening. Daniel was staring at the documents as if they were written in another language. Jessica was breathing heavily. Her hands were shaking. This is an ambush, she finally said. Daniel, are you just going to let your mother treat you like this? Daniel looked up. He looked at me. And in his eyes, I saw something I hadn't seen in years. Clarity. Mom is right. What? She's right. We've taken advantage of her. I have taken advantage of her. And if these conditions are what she needs to feel safe in her own home, I accept them. Daniel, you're crazy. $2,000 a month. We can't afford that. Then we'll find another place. Jessica looked at him as if she didn't recognize him. Are you serious? Completely. You're choosing your mother over me? I'm choosing to do the right thing. For the first time in 3 years. She grabbed her purse. She stood up. Fine. Perfect. I hope you two enjoy your little house and your little rules. She looked at me with pure hatred. You won, Helen. Congratulations. You get to keep your house and your son, but you'll be alone. Because no one is going to want to be near a bitter old woman who prefers control over family. Jessica, Mr. Harrison said, I suggest you leave before you say something you might legally regret. Legally? Are you threatening me? Defamation is a crime. I'm merely advising you. She let out a hysterical laugh. This is unbelievable. It's 3 against 1. No one is against you, Daniel said. We're just setting boundaries that should have been set years ago. Boundaries? Daniel, if you stay here, if you accept this, I'm leaving. We all looked at her. The ultimatum was on the table. Daniel took a deep breath. I saw his hands tremble. I saw his eyes fill with tears. But I also saw his back straighten. Then leave. Jessica froze. What? I said, leave. If you can't respect my mom, if you can't live under fair conditions, if all you want to do is control and manipulate, then I don't want to be with you anymore. Daniel, you can't be serious. I've never been more serious in my life. She looked at each of us. Searching for an ally, searching for a crack, she found none. You are all going to regret this, she said in a venomous voice. All 3 of you. And she stormed out, slamming the door so hard the bookshelves trembled. The silence that remained was strange. It wasn't uncomfortable. It was liberating. Like when a storm finally ends and the air smells like a new beginning. Daniel collapsed into his chair. He covered his face with his hands, and he wept. He wept like he hadn't wept since he was a child. I got up. I knelt beside him. I hugged him. I'm so sorry, Mom. I'm so sorry. It's okay, son. It's over. I loved her. Or I thought I did. But I just realized I didn't even know who I was without her telling me what to think. Now you get to find out. Mr. Harrison gave us a few minutes. Then, with professional gentleness, Mrs. Helen, do you wish to sign the documents? Yes. Daniel? My son lifted his head. He wiped his tears. Me too. We signed, one by one, the documents that protected my assets, my dignity, my future, and my son's, too. We left the office after noon. The sun was shining brightly. The sky was clear. What do we do now? Daniel asked. Now, we go home. We'll make some lunch. And we start over. Just like that, and just that complicated. He laughed. A sad, but real laugh. Mom, thank you. For what? For not giving up on me. For fighting. For reminding me who I'm supposed to be. I hugged him, right there on the street. I will always fight for you, son. But I won't fight against myself to do it anymore. We got home at 2 in the afternoon. Jessica's clothes were already gone. She had emptied her side of the closet, her products from the bathroom, her shoes. She had left a note on the bed. Daniel, by the time you realize what a mistake you've made, it will be too late. I hope your mom and her house make you happy, because I'm done trying. Jay. My son read the note. He folded it. He put it in his pocket. Are you okay? I asked. No, but I'm going to be. That night, we had dinner together. Just the two of us. I made chicken tortilla soup, the kind he loved when he was little. Pastries, hot coffee. We ate in the dining room. We talked. About everything and nothing. About Robert. About how much we missed him. About how he would have handled this situation. About the mistakes, the lessons, the future. And for the first time in 3 years, my house felt like home again. But the story wasn't over. Because Jessica was right about one thing. There would be consequences. And some of them would change everything in ways I never imagined. I learned that it is never too late to choose yourself. February 15th. 2 months later, I woke up to the smell of coffee coming from the kitchen. I smiled before I even opened my eyes. Daniel had started getting up early, making breakfast, seeking me out to talk before his workday started. Small gestures. But they meant everything. I came downstairs in my robe. He was at the stove, making scrambled eggs. Good morning, Mom. Good morning, son. He poured me coffee without my asking. With a splash of milk. Just how I like it. I have 3 meetings with potential clients today, he said, putting the plates on the table. If it goes well, I could have the business back on its feet by June. I'm so happy to hear that. And Mom, I have to tell you something. His tone was serious. My heart sped up. What's wrong? I found an apartment. A small one. In Culver City. I'm moving out. I felt a hollow pit in my stomach. You're leaving? It's not that I want to leave. But I need to learn to stand on my own 2 feet. To not depend on you. To be the man Dad would have wanted me to be. He took my hand. I'm going to pay my own rent. I'm going to cook my own food. I'm going to do my own laundry. All the things I stopped doing because it was easier to let you do them. My eyes filled with tears. I am so proud of you. I'll come visit twice a week. And on Sundays, I want us to have dinner together. If you want to, of course. Of course I do. And Mom, I've been going to therapy. Really? Yeah. For 3 weeks. A psychologist who's helping me understand how I got so lost, how I let someone control me like that. I'm so glad, son. And one more thing. He took a deep breath. Jessica called me. 2 weeks ago. My stomach tensed. What did she want? She wanted to get back together. She said she made a mistake. That she missed me. That we could find a way to make it work. And what did you tell her? I told her no. That I needed time alone. That I needed to heal. And that if we were ever together again, it would be under completely different conditions. With clear boundaries. With mutual respect. How did she take it? She got angry. She said I had changed. that I wasn't the same man. He smiled, and she was right. I'm not the same, and I don't ever want to be again. I hugged him. Long. Hard. Your father would be so proud of you. I know. And I think I'm finally starting to be proud of myself too. That afternoon, the doorbell rang. I opened the door, and there was Arthur, with flowers, yellow sunflowers. Hello, Helen. My heart did a leap I didn't expect. Arthur, what are you doing here? Carol told me you'd be alone today, and I thought maybe you'd like some company for coffee. I smiled. I'd love that. He came in. I made him coffee. We cut slices of the tres leches cake I had made that morning. We sat in the living room. My living room, which was becoming mine again. I had reclaimed the space. Little by little. With patience. I rehung the paintings from New England. I put the family photos back on the shelves. I bought new plants. And even though my grandmother's sideboard never came back, I placed a small table with her photograph in the entryway. Your house feels different, Arthur said. Different how? Alive. Like it's breathing. That's because I can finally breathe in it. We sat in a comfortable silence. The kind that only exists between people who don't need to fill every second with words. Helen, there's something I'd like to ask you. Tell me, these past 2 months, we've talked almost every day. On the phone, by text, and I've enjoyed every single conversation. Me too. I'd like for this to be more than conversations. My heart sped up. What do you mean? I mean, I'd like to invite you to dinner. Officially, as in, what could be the beginning of something. Arthur, I'm 68 years old. I've been through a marriage. I have an adult son. A complicated life. And I'm 72. I have 3 children, 2 grandchildren, a house full of memories, and a complicated life too. He took my hand. But complicated doesn't mean we don't deserve companionship, that we don't deserve laughter, that we don't deserve the possibility of something new. I looked into his eyes, those kind eyes that had seen me at my worst and never judged. I don't know if I'm ready. You don't have to be ready. You just have to be willing to try. I thought of Robert, of what he would have wanted from me, and I knew with absolute certainty that he would have wanted me to be happy. Okay, I accept. His smile lit up the whole room. Saturday? Saturday? March arrived with rain and purple jacaranda blossoms. Daniel moved into his apartment. I cried the day he left, but they were tears of pride, not loss, because I knew that now he was ready to live his own life, to build his own path. He came for dinner on Sundays. Sometimes he brought dessert. Sometimes I cooked his favorite dishes. We talked, we laughed, we healed, and slowly we recovered what Jessica had broken. Arthur and I started dating, regularly, to the movies, to museums, to walk in Griffith Park, to small restaurants where the food was more important than the picture for Instagram. It wasn't fireworks or teenage drama. It was something better. It was companionship, understanding, respect. It was 2 people who had lived long enough to know that real love isn't perfect. It's patient, it's kind, it's choosing, every day, to be there. One afternoon in April, I was in the garden watering my plants when my phone rang. Unknown number. Hello? Mrs. Helen? Yes, this is she. This is Street Joseph's Hospital. Your name is listed as the emergency contact for a Mrs. Jessica Ruiz. My blood ran cold. What? What happened? Mrs. Ruiz was in a car accident. It's not serious, but she needs someone to come and get her. Her husband, Daniel, isn't answering. Oh, we're not. I stopped. Jessica was alone, hurt, and no one was coming for her. I could hang up. Say it wasn't my problem. It would be fair. It would be understandable. But it wouldn't be who I wanted to be. I'm on my way. I got to the hospital 40 minutes later. I found her in the emergency room. Her arm was in a cast, scrapes on her face, sitting alone in a plastic chair. When she saw me, her eyes went wide. Helen? Hello, Jessica. What? What are you doing here? They called me. I'm your emergency contact. You shouldn't have come. I know. We looked at each other. Two women who had been enemies, who had hurt each other, who had lost so much in the war. How are you? I asked. Fine. Nothing serious. Just a broken bone and a more broken ego. She laughed, humorlessly. You don't have to stay. I already called a friend. Are you sure? Yes. I turned to leave. Helen. I stopped. Yes? I'm sorry. For everything. For how I treated you. For what I did. Her voice broke. You were right. About everything. I just wanted security. And I became a horrible person looking for it. I didn't answer right away. I let her words hang in the air between us. We all make mistakes, Jessica. The difference is whether we learn from them. Did you? I learned not to be silent. I learned that self-love isn't selfishness. I learned that it's okay to set boundaries. She nodded, slowly. Daniel is better off without me. Daniel is better off being himself. With or without you. That's the difference. Do you think he'll ever be able to forgive me? I don't know. But you should start by forgiving yourself. And then, work on being someone who deserves forgiveness. Her friend arrived 15 minutes later. I said goodbye. As I was walking out, Jessica called my name one last time. Helen. Yes, thank you, for coming, even though I didn't deserve it. We all deserve compassion. At least once. I left the hospital feeling something strange. It wasn't joy at her pain. It was peace. Peace from knowing I had chosen to be a better person than the pain that was inflicted on me. December came again. 1 year since that Christmas that changed everything. This time, the house was full. Daniel and his new girlfriend, Andrea. A kind architect who looked at him with genuine respect. Carol, who had come up from Santa Fe. Arthur, of course. 2 neighbors who had always supported me. And me. In my house. My space. My reclaimed home. I made turkey. I made stuffing. I made hot cider with a kick. We laughed. We sang carols. We exchanged small but meaningful gifts. And when we raised our glasses to toast, I looked around the table. These were the people I chose to have in my life. And the ones who chose me. A toast? Arthur proposed. Yes, everyone replied. I stood up, glass in hand. I want to toast to second chances, to learning to say no, to finding your voice after years of silence, to sons who learn to grow, to friends who hold your hand, and to loves that arrive when you least expect them. Everyone raised their glasses. And to remembering, I continued, that it is never, ever too late to choose yourself. Cheers. The glasses clinked. The music played. Laughter filled my house. And there, surrounded by light and love and reclaimed dignity, I understood something profound. The real treasure was never the house. It was getting my soul back. That night, after everyone had gone, I sat on my bed. I took out a photo. The photo from that Christmas in Santa Fe. Arthur and me, smiling. The photo that changed everything. And I smiled. Because that woman in the picture, that woman who dared to buy a plane ticket, who dared to set boundaries, who dared to take her life back, that woman was me. And I was never going to forget her again. Wise. Final reflection. If you're listening to this story and you feel invisible in your own home, let me tell you something I learned along the way. You matter. Your dignity is non-negotiable. Your voice deserves to be heard. And it is never listened to me. It is never too late to take your life back. I was 68 years old when I decided enough was enough. How old are you? It doesn't matter. What matters is this. Today can be your day 1. The day you buy the ticket. The day you set the boundary. The day you say, no more. Because true wealth isn't what you own. It's what you refuse to let anyone take from you. Your peace, your dignity, your right to be happy. Don't give it away. Not ever again. If this story touched your heart, I want to know where you're listening from. Write your city or country in the comments. I would love to know that these stories are reaching every corner of the world where there are women and men who need to remember their worth. Give it a like if this story made you feel something. Share it with someone who needs to hear it. And subscribe to keep hearing stories of people who refuse to stay silent. Because we all deserve a second chance. And we all deserve to be happy. Until the next story, take good care. And remember, your voice matters.